A very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Ashish, and the topic for us today is relevance of history in general studies for UPSC CSE, that is Civil Services Examinations. हमारा मकसद ये रहेगा आप लोगों को बताना कि हिस्ट्री को मेंस एज अ पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक में उसकी अहमियत को हम जानें, पहचानें, साथ ही साथ ये भी देखें कि इसकी रेलेवेंस क्या है, इसकी अपनी वेटेज कितनी है मार्क्स की, एंड व्हाट टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चंस कम इन मेंस. ये बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स को बार बार लगता है दैट हिस्ट्री जीएस पेपर 1 का ही पार्ट है. दिस इज जस्ट अ पार्ट ऑफ जीएस पेपर 1. For those students who are new to the syllabus of UPSC Civil Services Examination, I would implore you to please look at the syllabus. जिन लोगों को syllabus नहीं भी पता है, उनको भी हम guide करेंगे इस lecture के दौरान to just tell you about syllabus few points in a very brief way. अगर मैं GS General Studies Paper 1 की बात करूं, तो आपको इसमें Ancient History, Medieval History, Modern History, पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस हिस्ट्री और साथ ही साथ ज्योग्राफी, सोसाइटी, डाइवर्सिटी के क्वेश्चंस मिलेंगे. यूपीएससी अपने सिलेबस को नोटिफिकेशन के थ्रू हमें बताते हैं, राइट. सो मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली अगर आपको सिलेबस देखना है तो यूपीएससी के नोटिफिकेशंस को आप ज़रूर देखें, जो हर साल ऑलमोस्ट फरवरी के आसपास में हमारे पास आती है, राइट. And they also tell you what type of questions they're going to ask and what type of answers they expect. They also tell you what kind of interview candidates they are looking for. आप में क्या चीज़ वो ढूंढ रहे हैं, या आपको कैसे अपने आप को प्रेजेंट करना है, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. सो इट इज़ अ गुड ट्रेजर फॉर यूपीएससी कैंडिडेट्स that what they should look out for. A best way to prepare for civil services examination is to look at questions which has already been asked. That is what we are trying to do here also. हम भी ऐसा ही करेंगे. हम देखेंगे कि कौन से टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चंस पहले पूछे जा चुके हैं, ट्रेंड्स क्या क्या रहे हैं, किस टाइप के क्वेश्चंस आते हैं, चेंज होते रहते हैं, राइट. फॉर एग्जांपल पहले फैक्ट बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस बहुत ज़्यादा आते थे प्रीलिम्स और मेंस दोनों में. अब हम देखते हैं कि फैक्ट से ज़्यादा स्ट्रक्चर बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस या कंसेप्चुअल क्वेश्चंस ज़्यादातर पूछे जा रहे हैं, राइट. दैट रिक्वायर्स अ बिट ऑफ डीप नॉलेज, नॉट स्किन डीप नॉलेज. आपको थोड़ा ज़्यादा पढ़ना पड़ेगा, या आप जिस तरीके से अपने स्टडीज़ को ओरिएंट कर रहे थे उसके अलग. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अब क्वेश्चंस न्यू एनसीईआरटी से पूछे जा रहे हैं, पहले ओल्ड एनसीईआरटी से पूछे जाते थे, राइट. तो सिलेबस चेंज के साथ साथ क्वेश्चंस में भी रिफ्लेक्शंस आते हैं. एंड आई वुड अगेन सजेस्ट यू कि आप पास्ट ईयर क्वेश्चंस देखें, और हम यहाँ पर भी आपको पास्ट ईयर क्वेश्चन से अवगत कराएंगे. वी विल ऑल्सो लेट यू go through those past year questions. So, as I told you, again, history is not just relevant for GS paper 1, history is also relevant for GS paper 2, 3, and 4. This you will come to know in series of our topics and in series of our lectures. So, let me first take you with GS paper 1. So, GS paper 1 में किस type के questions आते हैं. For example, why study of history matters? Simply because for GS paper 1, history covers 60% of your topics. As I told you, for ancient history, medieval history, modern, postmodern, as well as some parts of society and diversity. Other than geography, which is asked in GS paper 1. So, आप ज़रूर हिसाब लगा सकते हैं कि ये GS paper 1 के यानी 250 मार्क्स के 60 ऑलमोस्ट 60-70% को कवर कर रहा है, राइट. सो जीएस पेपर 1 ज़्यादातर हिस्ट्री से डोमिनेटेड है, बट विच टाइप ऑफ क्वेश्चंस इन हिस्ट्री, दैट इज व्हाट वी हैव टू सी. फॉर एग्जांपल आर्ट और कल्चर के ऊपर बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस पूछे जाते हैं हिस्ट्री से, एंड आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट मेंस हियर. इन सीरीज ऑफ लेक्चर्स में हमारी कोशिश ये रहेगी कि आपको मेंस के क्वेश्चन से रूबरू कराएं, आपको मेंस के क्वेश्चन से अवगत कराएं, साथ ही साथ कुछ टिप्स जो आपको आंसर लिखने में हेल्प करेंगी. सो फॉर एग्जांपल, मेंस क्वेश्चंस in art and culture is mainly reflected through architecture, paintings, sculptures, dance forms, some art forms, religion. There is a lot of questions which have been asked on religion, forms of religion, different types of religion in India, right? And most of these are concentrated on ancient and medieval topic. Okay. Uh, if you ask me, what types of questions? Art and culture is not a monolith. ये एक सिंपल एक ही तरीके से पढ़े जाने वाला टॉपिक है नहीं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आर्ट और कल्चर में आप बिल्ड फॉर्म्स पढ़ते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, बिल्ड फॉर्म इज लाइक फोर्ट्स, पैलेसेस, केव्स, स्तूपास. आप रिलीजन भी पढ़ते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, बुद्धिज्म, जैनिज्म, शैविज्म, भागवतिज्म, पौराणिक रिलीजन्स. These are different types of religions, right? Charvak, Mimamsa, Yog, so on and so forth, right? For example, Jainism and Buddhism were just one or two out of almost 600 to 700 others heterodox religion that came in India at around 6th century BC. Can you gauge it? कि इतने सारे रिलीजन्स इंडिया में उस टाइम पे थे, या इतने सारे, अगर इफ आई एम नॉट अलाउड टू से रिलीजन बिकॉज दे डिड नॉट बिकेम अ ग्रुप pantheistic religion kind of followings, but there were different thoughts, there were different modes of thinking, there were different schools of thinking in India at that point of time, right? उसमें से जैनिज्म और बुद्धिज्म अपने आप में बहुत बड़े चैलेंजर के रूप में इंडिया में आते हैं. And challenging to whom? Challenging to the Brahminical religion. We don't say in ancient history as Hindu religion, we say it as a Brahminical religion. So when you study history, you will come across these types of notions and these types of thoughts. For example, a very pertinent question that UPSC keeps on asking, that although the birth of Jainism and Buddhism happened in India, it was not as popular as Hinduism. And Buddhism, although being its birthplace in India, has now found more relevance in Southeast Asia or in other Asian countries other than India. ये कुछ simple questions हैं, right? जिनके answers आपको directly history books में नहीं मिलेंगे, right? ये questions आपको सोचने पर, इम्प्लोर करने पर मजबूर करता है, और आप भी सोचते हैं कि इसका आंसर सिर्फ और सिर्फ हिस्ट्री में नहीं बल्कि प्रेजेंट डे जियो पॉलिटिक्स में भी मिलेगा, राइट? सो वी ट्रीट इट, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, वी ट्रीट हिंदुइज्म, वी ट्रीट बुद्धिज्म, वी ट्रीट जैनिज्म एज इंडिया सॉफ्ट पावर एक्सपोर्ट टू दीज कंट्रीज. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, द बिगेस्ट टेम्पल इन द वर्ल्ड इज नॉट इन इंडिया, इट इज इन Cambodia, right? Hindu temple, for that matter, right? So these kinds of exciting, anecdotes or answers you will find mostly when you study art and culture in a bit of great detail, and that is what is our endeavor here. That although ये questions थोड़े tough लगते हैं लोगों को, but हमारी कोशिश ये रहेगी कि आपको ये आसान लगे when you are into the thought process of so. For example, sculptures के ऊपर बहुत सारे questions आते रहते हैं, और architectural build forms के ऊपर questions आते रहते हैं. Sculptures right from Indus Valley civilization that we have in India from around 2600 BC to almost 1750 BC, जिसे हम कहते हैं that this was the mature period of Indus Valley civilization. We had Bronze Age sculptures. So India में sculpture का tradition बहुत ही पुराना है, right? So for example, you have bronze sculptures like dancing girl sculpture, a bearded priest sculpture, sculptures made of statite, sculptures made of bronze, sculptures made of terracotta, ये सारे इंडस वैली सिविलाइजेशन के एक तरीके से इंसिग्निया है, इम्प्रिंट्स हैं. इनके ऊपर क्वेश्चंस आते रहते हैं, राइट. विच टाइप ऑफ स्कल्पचर मेकिंग वाज दैट, स्कल्पचर्स कैसे बनाए जाते थे, व्हाट इज लॉस्ट वैक्स, मेथड ऑफ स्कल्पचरिंग, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा, राइट. ये बहुत ही सिंपल और इजी टू डू क्वेश्चंस होते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल स्कल्पचर्स से लेके आर्किटेक्चर, स्तूपा आर्किटेक्चर्स पे यूपीएससी बहुत ही ज़्यादा क्वेश्चंस पूछती रहती है, both in prelims as well as mains. For example, Sanchi Stupa के architecture पे पूछती हैं, right? And from few moments from now, I will show you some of the examples there. Paintings के ऊपर बहुत सारे questions पूछे जाते हैं. For example, कुछ paintings जो हमारे यहाँ पर मुगलों ने बनाई. For example, paintings made by Jahangir. Now, all of you know that Jahangir was mostly known for his paintings. Shah Jahan is mostly known for his architecture. But look at the genius of UPSC examiners. They wanted to ask you about the paintings which were made during the time of Shah Jahan. So, Shah Jahan के time पे जो paintings बने हुए थे, उसके क्या अलग मायने थे या उसके क्या अलग characteristics थे as compared to the paintings which were made by Jahangir. This question was asked in prelims. Fine. Now, if you have just read it about so and so painting and so painting, and if you have not seen it, lived it, and appreciated the art for what it is, जब तक आप आर्ट को खुद नहीं देख रहे हैं, उसे समझ रहे हैं, फॉर एग्जाम्पल यूपीएससी now starts asking कि अगर ये स्ट्रक्चर बना हुआ है तो इस स्ट्रक्चर्स के मटेरियल पैलेट क्या है. फॉर एग्जांपल बुलंद दरवाज़ा के ऊपर क्वेश्चंस पूछे गए थे और ये पूछा गया था कि मार्बल्स यूज हुए थे बुलंद दरवाज़ा में. नो, फॉर ऑल द स्टूडेंट्स हु लिव इन लखनऊ, आप सबको पता है कि बुलंद दरवाज़ा में मार्बल्स नहीं, स्टोन्स यूज किए गए हैं, राइट. बट बहुत सारे मुगल आर्किटेक्चर में स्टोन्स नहीं, मार्बल्स यूज किए गए हैं. बहुत ही कम मुगल आर्किटेक्चर्स हैं, स्पेशली प्री शाहजहां आर्किटेक्चर और इवन प्री जहांगीर आर्किटेक्चर जहां पे स्टोन्स यूज किए गए हैं, बट मार्बल्स भी यूज होते रहे हैं. दिस इज व्हाट वी हैव गेन्ड फ्रॉम कल्चरल इंटरैक्शन कमिंग फ्रॉम पर्शिया, राइट. बट अवधी आर्किटेक्चर में ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है, साउथ इंडिया के आर्किटेक्चर में ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है, राइट. वहाँ पे स्टोन्स यूज किए गए हैं, ग्रेनाइट्स यूज किए गए हैं, राइट. सो ये महीन डिफरेंसेस आपको तब पता चलते हैं जब आप वो स्ट्रक्चर्स देख रहे हैं, पढ़ रहे हैं, समझ रहे हैं और एक विजुअल मेमोरी भी आपके सामने है. दैट क्रिएट्स अ होलिस्टिक पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ योर प्रिपरेशन फॉर आर्ट एंड कल्चर, राइट. I'll try to show you some. I hope you are there with me. So I'll try to show you some. What do you see here is Sanchi Stupa, जिसके ऊपर questions पूछा गया था. For example, if I would just take few moments, this is the hemispheric anda, as it is called. Andakar means having the shape of egg. This is the central casket where the ashes, mostly of Buddha, is kept. तो बुद्धा के ashes central casket में रखे जाते हैं. इसे हर्मिका भी कहते हैं हम, right. This is the main entry gateways. There were 4 entry gateways to Sanchi Stupa. This is also called as Toran, right, Torana. On these there are reliefs which are made. Reliefs जो हम कहते हैं stone के ऊपर नक्काशी की गई हुई reliefs. And these reliefs depict the story from Jatak tales, right? So these are very interesting facts to know. These are very small interesting facts to know as you see them. If you can see it for yourself, it is made up of stone. Was it made up of stone? At the starting, it was made by Ashoka at the request of his wife, who was from the same area of Sanchi. When it was made, it was not made in stone. Ashoka made it in wood. And later on, it was Pushyamitra Sunga, a very famous Sunga dynasty ruler. In fact, the starter of the Sunga dynasty, Pushyamitra Sunga also expanded, right, the Sanchi Stupa. In fact, he was one of a personality who did not like Buddhism or Buddhist monks that much. But nevertheless, that did not stop him from creating a grand Sanchi Stupa, right? So these types of small questions are or interesting questions are asked in UPSC. This is what I've written. This came in 2017 mains about the stupa architecture. For example, look at these pictures. These are excavations which were held very recently, just one and a half year ago in Rakhi Gadhi. Rakhi Gadhi is a Harappa site, IVC, Indus Valley Civilization site. Majorly, it was known. Now, this I leave it to you. In which state of India is Rakhi Gadhi located, right? But when this excavations were going on, UPSC asked in prelims about the sites of Harappan civilization or the Indus Valley civilization. And in the mains, they asked about the relevance of such sites or the relevance of Rakhi Gadhi as a necropolis. Necropolis means a city of, in a literal meaning, a city of dead, because we discovered an astounding amount of skeletons from Rakhi Gadhi, and that created a huge flutter. हमें एग्जैक्ट बोन्स स्केलेटन्स जैसे कि आप देख सकते हैं ये सब मिले. फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर आपसे बहुत ही हल्के में पूछा जाए कि अगर आप ये डिगिंग्स या ये पिक्चर्स देखते हैं जिसमें स्केलेटन्स दफनाए गए हैं, व्हाट इट डज इट टेल यू अबाउट द बरियल पैटर्न, व्हाट डज इट टेल यू अबाउट द पीपल, what does it tell you about how they lived, what does it tell you about what they thought? For example, if they are being buried with objects, that tells us that they believed in afterlife. If they are buried with a lot of material wealth, that tells us that, and some burials are not with material wealth, that tells us that society was not that egalitarian, right? There was social differentiation and division within the society. If you see joint burials, that tells you about the family structure or the family enterprise, so on. So skeletal DNA analysis is a very cutting edge field in the archaeology, especially in the archaeological findings of such sites. That tells us about what they eat, that tells us about what was the climatic pattern at that point of time, that tells us about what kind of animals were also out there, right? The structure of bones, their for example, what kind of diseases they suffered through, right? So on and so forth. So this is a whole new exciting range of questions that you can think about and write about, right? Moving forward. Paintings. I've tried to show you what you can see on the side. It is the famous Padmapani paintings of Ajanta in cave number 1. Now, Ajanta के ऊपर बहुत सारे questions आए हुए हैं. Last year, they asked in prelims about the river which was flowing near Ajanta, right? Any questions can come which is related to the topic. For example, if I ask you, how many of you will be able to answer this fact, whether Ajanta is a tempera or fresco? Now, what is tempera or fresco? Tempera and fresco are forms of paintings. एक में वेट लाइम प्लास्टर्स यूज होता है, जिसमें जब लाइम वेट होते हैं देन ओनली इट इज पेंटेड अपॉन. एक में जब लाइम प्लास्टर सूख जाते हैं देन इट इज पेंटेड अपॉन, राइट. अजंता paintings are one of the world's most exquisite and real life depicting serene paintings, and they are still intact to this day. That speaks about the brilliance of paintings at that point of time. Questions do get asked about the style of painting, the natures of painting, the object of painting, कि Padmapani hai kaun, right? For example, what do you mean by these sculptures? Now, Padmapani are bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas are, for example, uh, those monks who have attained nirvana and they have become one with Buddha or one with enlightenment. There are different forms of monks. For example, there are arhats, there are bhikkhunis, there are bhikkhus. Then there are bodhisattvas. They are seen to be one of the enlightened beings, which can take messages from us to the enlightened one, that is to the Buddha, or who can also help us attain nirvana. Now, those are the precepts of Mahayana Buddhism. Buddhism is again divided into Hinayan, Mahayana, so on and so forth, as well as Vajrayana. So these are some interesting facts, or these are some interesting precepts through which questions are asked. What you see here is Ajanta caves. Now, UPSC also has a knack of asking questions based on the material palette. As I told you, अगर आपको ये नहीं पता कि अजंता केव्स कैसे बने हुए हैं, इज इट अ मैन मेड केव, इज इट अ नेचुरल केव, राइट? Questions may be also asked on that. Is it based on basalt rock or granitic rock? A clear understanding, any geography student will know that most of the rocks which is found in Maharashtra, are they granitic or basalt? Of course, they are made up of volcanic ashes, right? Or they are volcano step-like topography. So of course they'll be basalt, not granitic, or sometimes also. So these kinds of questions also get asked. Okay, these are some caves of Ajanta, which is Chaitya. Okay, and Vihara. Vihara was for living, Chaitya was for praying. Very recently, temples from Telangana are in news. For example, Ramappa temple from Telangana near Warangal is famous for getting listed as UNESCO site, right? Similarly, what I'm showing you here is coming up from the Ladkhan temple, okay, which is known to be a very architecturally site mixing of both northern and southern temple making traditions. So both Nagar and Dravid temple making traditions. Questions get asked on temple making traditions. Mind you, now when you prepare for mains, for ancient and medieval part, mostly you concentrate your understanding or your preparation on art and architectural forms, on paintings, on temples, on dances, on sculptures, on architectures, right? Political questions gets asked very less. Political questions are mostly reserved for independence part, modern part, sometimes for medieval, very less for modern. Mostly they are reserved for modern and postmodern, right? So this is what we want you to understand, or this is what we want to drive the point at home, that देखिए आपको तैयारी जो है वो अंधेरे में नहीं करनी है. You should know, you should understand different types of questions that try and come. For example, you will see medieval architecture, medieval understandings. For example, questions, again, Qutub Minar becomes very important, present day architectures. For example, architecture, how does it change from being trapeze style or simple linear fragmented style to arcuate styles, or what is the difference between medieval structures and ancient structures, and what kind of structures led to differentiation between medieval and modern part, or medieval and ancient part. So all these types of questions also gets asked, right? Other than that, you also have world history in GS paper 1, right? World history ideas, which cover in the world history, uh, which is related to Renaissance, Reformation. These are 15th century, 16th century European phenomena. Birth of nation states like Germany, Italy, very important with regard to present perspective. Socialism, fascism, nationalism, these become the most important cutting edge questions. Internationalism, like the coming up of League of Nations, World Bank, or WTO, or United Nations, etc., etc. World wars, of course, Cold War, NATO, Seattle, and I have just mentioned them. Their historicity just not leads you to understanding of GS paper 1, it also culminates in the understanding of GS paper 2, where, by the way, you'll be learning about, or you'll be learning about the international relations, and almost all international relations go along with the understanding of international history. So I hope this is how we are stepping our stone, or we are stepping our toes into the GS paper second syllabus. This is all for GS paper 1.